So it's 2026. We're just over a week into this war with Iran, and already the shockwaves are hitting us all. We're seeing it everywhere, from the gas pump to the stability of the entire global economy. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down how we even got here, why this war is being fought in a way we've never seen before, and maybe most importantly, what it means for your wallet. Let's dive in.
You know, this isn't some far-off conflict you can just flip past on the news. The reality is, this war is changing everything. From your budget in North America to a family dinner back in Southeast Asia, it's already reshaping the global economy, and it's already affecting your day-to-day life. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the political dominoes that led to that first strike. Then, we're going to get into Iran's pretty radical drone strategy. It's completely changing the rules of war. After that, we'll follow the money. Trace the economic shockwave from Wall Street right down to your street. We'll also ask the big question, is this war even winnable? And then we'll wrap up with some practical advice on how you can navigate all this fallout.
So, the big question, who lit the match? Well, it wasn't really a single spark. It was more like a long, slow-burning fuse. And the story of how this whole thing kicked off is honestly a really complex game of geopolitical chess. Okay, so this all started with a long-term plan bubbling up in Israel for a so-called knockout blow against Iran. The White House, seeing this on the horizon, made a huge, risky call: strike first. The whole idea was to cripple Iran's ability to hit back at American bases before Israel made its move. Now, the official story, the one given to the public, was about destroying Iran's missile program, but really, it was all about preemption. And now, the dominoes are falling, and they are falling fast. An Israeli strike on Hezbollah in Beirut has just pulled the entire region right into the fire. And the messaging coming out of Washington has just thrown gasoline on the fire of confusion. What is this exactly? Is it just a limited warning shot, or is it a full-on push for regime change, especially when you hear President Trump telling Iranians to take back their country? He's promising a quick war, right? Over and done in 4 or 5 weeks. But when your goals are this all over the place, it creates this massive uncertainty about what the actual end game is supposed to be.
Now, let's switch gears and look at the battlefield itself, because this is fascinating. Iran isn't fighting a conventional war at all. They're using what you could call a drone gambit, and it's all designed to make a $4 million missile totally useless against a $20,000 weapon.
The strategy even has a name: mosaic warfare. And I want you to think of it less like a traditional army and more like a swarm of bees. There's no single command center to take out. Instead, Iran is using countless small, independent cells that just attack on their own. The goal isn't to win one big, decisive battle. It's to overwhelm a much stronger military with, well, 1,000 tiny cuts.
And this is where the math gets absolutely insane. So, Iran launches a drone that costs maybe 20 grand. The US has to fire a $4 million Patriot missile to shoot it down. Now imagine they do that 500 times in a single night. Iran has spent a few million bucks, but the US, they've just burned through over $1 billion in one night on defense alone. This isn't just warfare, it's economic bleeding. And for the Pentagon, it is completely, utterly unsustainable.
And this new kind of economic warfare isn't just draining the Pentagon's budget. No, it's sending a massive shockwave across the entire global economy. It's the first domino.
Let's talk about oil. The Strait of Hormuz, which is basically the world's energy artery, is now an active war zone. That alone has sent the price of oil skyrocketing past $92 a barrel. And believe me, that's just the start. The real nightmare scenario, the one that's terrifying every analyst out there, is a complete shutdown of the strait. If that happens, projections say the price could rocket up to $150 a barrel. And a number that high, it wouldn't just cause a recession. It would literally grind the entire global economy to a halt.
And here's the crucial thing to remember. High oil prices aren't just about what you pay at the pump. It's a chain reaction. Suddenly, it costs more to transport goods, it costs more to make the fertilizer for farms. And all those extra costs, they get passed down the line until they land on one person, you, at the supermarket checkout. This is exactly how a war thousands of miles away starts emptying your wallet.
Okay, so let's really bring this home. We've seen the big global picture. Now let's talk about the price you pay and the very real impact this is having on your life.
Let's look at how this squeeze is hitting from two different sides. If you're living abroad, let's say in Canada, you are getting slammed by a perfect storm. Central banks are keeping interest rates high to fight this inflation, so your mortgage is still painful. At the exact same time, your heating and grocery bills are just soaring. And then for family back home in Vietnam,
The strong US dollar makes everything they import way more expensive, and the money you're sending home just buys less and less. It's a painful squeeze. It doesn't matter where you are.
So what does this actually do to your household budget? Well, take a look at this. Your rent or mortgage, that's pretty much fixed. But the cost of the absolute essentials, groceries, heating, it's exploding. So something's got to give, right? And what gives is your ability to save any money and pretty much all the discretionary spending that makes life, enjoyable. That is the real price of this conflict right here at home.
Okay, let's pull back to the big picture again. The White House promised a quick war, but is that even possible? Is it realistic? The answer is looking more and more like the Pentagon's absolute worst nightmare.
Right now, the Pentagon is staring down a series of impossible choices. A ground invasion? Forget it. That would be a quagmire, way worse than Iraq. Those Iranian drones? They're small, they fly low, they're specifically designed to beat radar. And the missile stockpiles the US needs to shoot them down, they're already running low from helping out in Ukraine. To top it all off, America's allies in the region, they are terrified of getting involved because they know their own oil fields could be Iran's very next target.
And this is the ultimate doomsday scenario. If this war spreads and Iran manages to hit Saudi oil fields, which, by the way, they have done before, oil could surge to $200 a barrel. An economic shock of that magnitude wouldn't just be a recession, it would trigger a global depression on a scale we have not seen since the Second World War.
Okay, when you're faced with all this global chaos, it is so easy to feel powerless. But you're not. I promise you're not. There are some really concrete steps you can take right now to protect yourself and your finances. The playbook right now is all about financial defense. It's simple. First, go through your budget with a fine-tooth comb and cut every non-essential purchase you can. Second, avoid high-interest debt like the plague. Seriously. Stay away from those credit cards. And third, and this one is so crucial, cash is king. Make sure you have some cash accessible. In a crisis like this, having liquid assets, cash you can get to quickly, is your single most important safety net.
And just a final practical tip on travel. Airlines are now avoiding Iranian airspace entirely. This is adding hours and a serious amount of money to flights to Asia. So for now, it's probably safest to avoid major hubs in the region like Dubai and Doha altogether.
Which really leaves us with the central question of this whole conflict. The White House gambled on a quick, decisive victory. But what if, instead, they've opened a Pandora's box of chaos for the entire world? I guess we're all about to find out. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.